The goal of this video is to walk you through a series of activities that will allow you to learn the basics and beyond the basics of programming in TurtleBlocks. So when you open TurtleBlocks, it pretty much looks like this. You have the start block and a turtle. You notice that the colors match up, so this start block controls this turtle. And what we'd like to do is to have him draw a square. So I'm going to go over here to the turtle menu just to show you. So each of these things is a menu, and each menu has a set of blocks that will allow the turtle to do various things. So the flow, it has got a bunch of loops and other controlling things. Numbers is about numbers. The turtle are some basic functions like moving forwards and backwards and controlling the space. Pen controls the use of the pen, and you'll see what that means momentarily. So we'll go back and we'll watch what happens. So we're going to go forward what is 100 pixels, and when I click on start, we'll see that it moves forward. And that we're going to say is 100 pixels. So you'll notice a couple things. One is that by default, the turtle drags a pen. The ink is this magenta color, and that's the way that goes. So to erase what I've done, I just click on the eraser. So to activate the program, I either click on the start thing here, or I click on the play button over here. Okay, so in either case, I get the turtle to go. So now I'm on my way to building a square, and now it's time for the turtle to turn, and so I'm going to have him turn right 90 degrees, and the brick comes in automatically that way, and we can see that if I do that, he has gone 100 pixels and then turned right. So if I copied this and I right click on it, copy and paste, I now have that business. We're going to get rid of the second turtle. We get rid of things by dragging them to this lower space. The trash box lights up and we're good to go. So again, I go forward 100, I turn 90 degrees, I go forward 100, I turn 90 degrees. So I can see that if I did this 2 more times, or if I copied this block, I should end up with a square. So let's see if I've done that. So I erase, I hit play, and now I have a square. So why don't you pause this video for a second and give that a try. All right, so now that you're back, I'm assuming that you tried this out, and so let's think about this. So now, you know, that magenta color is kind of nice, but I would like a different color. Let's see what I can do. So I'm going to go to the pen menu, and I see that there's a set color block, and by default it comes out with a numbery thing. And if I click on that, I get a color wheel, because it turns out that in Python, colors are defined by numbers from 0 to 100, and we can see that. So 0 is this red pink thing, and then 10 takes us into the reds, and 20 into oranges, etc., etc. I like purple, so I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to put that at the start of my instructions, at the top of my instructions. And so the first thing that should happen is it sets the pen color to that purpley color and then draws a square. Let's see if it does that. And it does. And insert the sound effects of applause here. So I'm going to pause again. I'd like you to try that. It doesn't have to be purple. Pick another color, but go ahead and add to your program the setting of a color other than that default color. Okay, so now I'm assuming that you've done that. And so the next challenge is I would like a square with a different color on every side. So now I'm just going to repeat what I did before, which is I need 3 more of these dudes. and I'm going to pick different colors. So let's see. I'm going to have one side be green and one side be red and another side be this orangey thing, okay? And I'm just going to put them in. I'm going to put them at the top, before forward like I did with the other ones. So I just drag them in and they fit right in. And so now if it works, if this program works, I should have a square with a different color on every side. So let's see if I do. We'll erase it and run it. And I do. And so that's really exciting. So please pause the video and give that a try. Again, try whatever colors you want. Okay, so now that you've done that, now our next task is to do the same thing with the fewest number of bricks possible. Because after a while, this is going to get very tedious. So, and this goes to the notion of abstraction, which you read about. And so we're going to, okay, so what is the fundamental building block, no pun intended, of a square? Well, if I get rid of these, there's my fundamental building block, right? Because this gives me the move, the component of the program that if I did it 4 times, I would get that. So now instead of having all of this like I did before, I can reduce this by simply repeating it. So I grab the repeat thing. By default, it's 4, which is exactly what I need. That's what I'm repeating. And I'm putting it here. If that works, I should get a square that's 1 color at this point. Okay. So what we've done is we've added repeat to create a smaller set of instructions. So this is a more efficient program. So why don't you pause the video and give that a try. Okay, so now that you've done that, we want to go back to our program. We want to go back to the original idea, which was to put a color everywhere. And so what we'll see is that since we're using repeat, I have to get the same color every side. So if I want to do that, if I want every color to be different, I need something else. So what do we need? Well, we need, we're going to go to number and grab this random brick. So we're going to remind ourselves that TurtleBlocks understands colors as numbers between 0 and 100. So what I want to do is to write a program that has, with using the smallest number of bricks, creates a square that has that has a different color on every side. So if I go to my set color block, and I replace what I had, the 80, with this, I should get a square with a randomly generated different color on every side. So let's see if I do. Okay, I do. What you'll notice is that these two sides are very similar to each other, so we'll test it out by doing it again and again. And now we can see we really are getting 4 colors. The challenge there is that, remember, colors happen in ranges, and 62 isn't going to be that different than 61. And so even though the number is going to be random, and we can prove that, it's not going to look different every time. Okay, so please pause the video and practice creating this program. Okay, so welcome back. And so now what is really the advantage? I'm just going to get rid of this block over here because we don't need it anymore. All right, so what's really the advantage of making the program simpler? Well, I can now use this small pattern and, let's say, apply it to multiple turtles. So let's say that I wanted a group of 3 turtles to all create a square with a different color on every side. Well, I've already written the instructions for that, so now it's a matter of applying it to each one. So I could do it by grabbing two more turtles, which I do by coming to this action category, and there's one, and there's another one, and I could copy this block and give it to all of them. And so let me do that. Right, so I could do it this way. And if I do that, I should have 3 different color turtles. I'll get rid of this. 3 different color turtles all drawing squares at the same time. So we'll erase that and run it. And what do we find? Well, whoa, we only have 1 turtle. So what's the problem there? So now we need to know one more thing about TurtleBlocks, which is that the workspace is really a piece of graph paper with 0, 0 in the middle. So I'll show you. So right now, all 3 turtles we're all in the same spot. If I move them, now so each one of them is performing that program. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second, and I'd like you to do what I just did. So take your program that draws the square in the fewest number of blocks possible, then add 2 more turtles and move them and have them do what I just did. Have fun. Come back when you're ready. Okay, so we learned a couple things there. One is that we can create and reuse a piece of code. So that's great. That's actually a demonstration of something that we call an algorithm, right? It's a small set of instructions that are repeatable. We also learned that the workspace that the turtle lives in is really a piece of graph paper with the center being 0, 0. So as you're thinking about the lessons you're going to design at the end of this unit, this is kind of a natural for graphing and other kinds of spatial things that you may do with your children, with your students. Okay. So now that we have this kind of goofy thing where we have to distribute the turtles by hand. So let's have the program do that for us. So we go back to the turtle menu and we say set X and Y. So you'll remember that graph paper has 2 axes. There's a horizontal axis known as the X axis and a vertical axis known as the Y axis. And you'll notice by default that this block sets that to 0, 0, which is why all of the turtles appear in the middle at the beginning. So I need to reset that in each of my code. So let's just first make a copy of this, make 2 copies of it. Okay, so I don't mind that one's right at 0, 0. Doesn't matter which one it is. But I don't want all 3 of them there, so let's just keep them all on the x-axis, which means that that y is going to be 0. So we'll put this one at negative 200, negative 200, and this one at 200. And so now, when we erase it, let's see what happens. Right, so they all distribute themselves magically and perform this program. So please pause the video and give that a try. Okay, so you're back. And, now I could have arranged the turtles this way instead. And that's fun. Well, it's gonna get confused. So all that's fun. So now let's look at what we've learned so far. So we've learned how to create instructions using blocks. We've learned how the program thinks. So for example, colors are numbers between 0 and 100, and that the turtle lives in space, which we can control by setting the X and Y parameters. So now we want to go a step further. So what I would like to do is, so this is simpler than, remember our original set of blocks that we had 3 blocks for every side. So that would mean we had 12 blocks plus this. So this is simpler, but I'd like to make this even more simple because, again, we're dealing with abstraction. So wouldn't it be great if I could have one version of the square instructions instead of 3? Right now I have 3, one for each turtle, but I'd like to have one. So how can I do that? Well, I go over here to Action, and I grab this action block. Now when I call it something, I can call this anything, but I'm going to call it draw square. Again, it doesn't matter what you put in there. And I'm going to put inside of draw square these instructions. So now what have I done? I have said in my program there exists an action, a function really, called draw square, and when it's activated, it controls a turtle to set itself to a random color between 0 and 100, or set its pen color to a random number between 0 and 100, then go forward 100 pixels, then turn right 90 degrees, and then to repeat all of that 4 times. All right, so now what I want to do, now that I have that, if I could somehow just tell this turtle and this turtle and this turtle to do that, everything would be swell. So let's do that. So let's get rid of the blocks we no longer need. And now I need to find out, how can I give this action to each of my 3 turtles? Well, I go back to the action menu, and you'll see that there's now a block that wasn't there before called draw square. And so I'm going to get it and put it where the individual block, those sets of blocks used to be. And so let's look at what's happening here. So we'll look at our pink turtle. So what it says is, when I press start, go to 0, 0, so go in the middle, then go find the thing called draw square, which is over here, do whatever it says, and then come back. Okay, so now, if this program works the way I want it to, I should end up with exactly the same result that I had before with all those extra bricks. So let's see if I do. And I do. This is very exciting. So I'd like you, please pause the video and do that. So your job is to create an action, call it whatever you want to, put the definition of a square in the action, then apply the action to each of your 3 turtles. Okay, so that's pretty fun. And I can create as many actions as I want to. So let's say that I could even put actions within actions. So let's just say that I am interested in creating a circle of squares. Mostly I like doing that because it's really pretty. So I want to create another action. So I just go back and do what I did before, and I'm going to call it circle of squares. By the way, I use the underscore because I'm kind of used to it, but you don't need it to do it. I just like to do it. All right, so this circle of squares says, what is it going to say? So it's going to say, let me get rid of the graph paper now because we don't need it as much as we did before. Okay. Oh, by the way, you notice that when I do that, I get these extra lines, and those lines are created by the turtles moving over to those places. I could get rid of that by doing this. Picking the pen up, and then putting it down, again to draw the square. And I'll just show you that if I do that, and I'll do it again over here. Now by this point you're fairly clever, so you're going to figure out how to do that programmatically. But just to show you, the lines aren't there anymore. Okay, great. Now, so I want to create a circle of square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a square, then turn 2 degrees to the right, and then draw another square, and then turn 2 degrees to the right. And when I'm done, I'm going to end up with a circle of squares. So if that's the case, here's what I need. I need to turn right, and in this case it's 2 degrees. I know I'm going to need another repeat. So I go back to the flow. And just a tip, a circle has 360 degrees. If I'm earning 2 degrees, that would mean I'm going to do this 180 times. So I'm going to challenge you now. So what you need is to create an action that uses the draw square, then turns it 2 degrees and repeats 180 to get a circle of squares. You're going to pause the video, give that a try, and when you come back, I will show you how to do it. All right, so hopefully you got this, and I will just be repeating myself, but let's see how this can go. So what I want to do is, so I'm drawing a square. So what I want to do is this. I want to go over here to action, draw a square, turn 2 degrees, and then draw a square again, and I want to do that 180 times. Okay, so I've created an action that does that, and that means that I should have circle of squares as my thing over here. And I can just give it to each of them. So now let's test it out and see if it works. Okay, so let's erase what we have. And you can see that each of my turtles is building a circle of squares. And for this one, I may want to separate them more than I did before. And there you go. So now why don't you pause this, and if you didn't get it before, give it a try, and then we'll come back. Okay, well, welcome back. So one thing I'd like to do now is I'd like to save this because I really like what I have. And so I'm going to go over to my the globe, which is Find and Share Projects. And I want to go to Global. And I did something wrong here, so let me go back. All right, so here's my project. I'm doing something wrong. Hold on. I don't want to do that. Why am I? Okay, so Ardito circle of squares. I want to share it, and so I could give it tags. So I'm going to give it CS for teachers, spring 2020, a little Okay, so now I've published it, and just to show you, when I go back, there it is, it's right at the top, and I can search for it later, and then when I click on it, when I get more details, I can now open it in TurtleBlocks, just to show you that this works. Okay, gotta fix that. So I'll figure that out. So that was not very effective. Okay, so Okay, so now you have some really basic skills to work on with TurtleBlocks. I want to add one other component, which is going back to flow, and no, we'll leave that there. So you want to make sure that if you need to go through these again, you can. I'm going to, no, if you want to go through these again, you can. I've also given you a link to a really good guide that the TurtleBlocks people have put together, so you could try all kinds of other stuff. And otherwise, that's it for now.